Welcome everybody to this part 2 of the course Database Management Systems. Yesterday we covered the basics of logical design in terms of the entity relationship diagram and the relational model in terms of the table. So what we let me write down again. The slides are mostly following the book by Silversat, Scott and Sudarshan, which is the textbook in most of the courses. So you can consult the slides if you want. And let me proceed. Let me quickly recapitulate what we studied in the last class. We defined relations. We defined relations as a Cartesian product, as a subset of Cartesian product of the attributes. So any relation R is a subset of the domain of Cartesian products of the output. Basically, all possible combination of values of A, B and C attributes that you can take, some of them would appear in a table. Some of them would appear in a table. So, a instance of a table is nothing but a subset of the all possible values. So, we said that a relation R is equivalent to a table representation, relation or a table. If you have any doubt regarding this, you may please ask a question. If you have any doubt regarding this formulation, I can again explain with an example. So if this is accepted, then what we did was we defined a relational algebra where we wrote down expressions using these tables and some relational operators. So we have expression just like we have algebraic expressions where you, on variables you apply some algebra operators plus and star. We have similar relational expressions. The relational operator are some of the fundamental operators we considered as the following: selection, which is a unary operator. It takes as input a tabular relation and returns all the rows which satisfy condition theta. So theta may be like A greater than 1000. Returns all the rows which satisfy theta. So it has same number of columns but a reduced number of rows. Then you have projection, where we have again a unary operator but a subset of attributes. So basically it chooses few columns of this table and puts them. So for example, this would, if I make A greater than 100, the output if we put on R for this table would be A, B and C, same attributes but only one row instead of all the rows, only one row. But if we put this, it will be only two of the rows and all the tuples, both the tuples. Okay. Then we have the rename operator, which is actually useful when you want to change the name of a relation. R1 will be, R will be renamed as R1. This is useful. For example, when I have a complex expression and I want to give a temporary variable, a name for it, Okay, I would use the rename operator. Then I have the Cartesian product operator. Product operator, which is a binary operator denoted by the cross. It takes every tuple of R1 and combines with every tuple of R2. So, every pair of tuples are combined and a larger table is formed containing attributes of both R1 and R2. Then we have the set operators. We have the set union, which is again binary, takes tuples of R1 and takes tuples of R2 and just concatenates them, removing the duplicates. Note that two relations can be unioned only if they have the same set of attributes. Similarly, there is the set difference, which is tuples of R1, rows of R1 which are not there in R2, So, these 6 operators form the fundamental operators of relational algebra. There are some derived operators which one can define using this. The most common derived operator is the natural join operation. Natural join operation. It is again a binary operator denoted by this symbol. Say for example, let me take two R1 and R2. I take R1 and R2. R1 has attributes A and B. R2 has attributes B and C. R1 let us say has these tuples and R2 has these tuples, say AB, then say 400. Okay. So, the domain of A is integers, the domain of B is also integer, domain of C is strings. So, what R1 join natural join R2 do is that it will look at the common attributes of R1 and R2. Common attributes of R1 and R2, which in this case is B, and it will take a row of R1 and see the value of B for that row, does it match the value of B in any tuple of R2. So, you take this 200, you see if 200 matches B anywhere, it matches with this, it matches with this. So, in this case what will be happening is that this row is said to be joinable with this row. This row of R1 is joinable with this row. So, what is the condition of two rows to be joinable? Is that the common attribute between the two rows has to be same, has to have the same value. Okay. So, basically this is joinable with this. Now, compare this with this is not joinable, values do not match. Now, go to the second row of R1, match this with this, does not join, match this with this, does not join. So, this does not join with anybody. So, there is only one tuple in R1 which joins. So, the result will be like this. It will be a larger table containing A, the common attribute B and the attribute of R2 C, and it will only contain the tuples that are joinable. So, in this case it will contain only one tuple, this will be the only tuple. I will take 100, 200, this value is same. So, I need not repeat it, and the C value. Okay. So, this is the result of the joinable. So if R1 has m tuples and R2 has n tuples, potentially every tuple in R1 can join with every tuple in R2. So potentially there may be mn tuples in the join. Note that in the Cartesian product there will be mn tuples. Okay, if we take all possible combination, there will be mn tuples. But we have an additional constant here, the common attribute should be same. So what I can do is that I can write down this join operator in terms of the fundamental operators we define. So please think how we can write this. So what we do first is that take the Cartesian product. So Cartesian product in this case will be like this. A, 2B, 2 copies of B and C, and the tuples will be 100, 200, 200, AB, 100, 200, 400. Because in the product, every tuple will combine with every other tuple. So this is the Cartesian product. So I have 2 here, I have 2 here, total 4 tuples. The join operation puts a selection on top of this. What is the selection? The selection condition is the B value of R1, I write it as like this, equals the B value of R2, I write it as like. So only the tuples which have same value for both the B's, they will be selected. Okay. So this is my theta, they will be selected. So only this tuple will be selected. So what is the result of this? The result of this is just one tuple, just this tuple after selection. And then also I do one more thing, I remove the duplicate columns because they have the same value. I remove the duplicate column. How do I remove? I basically project it. I project it to all the attributes with the duplicate attributes removed. So I project it to basically A, B and C. So this is my final result. This is my final result. Okay. So actually very easy to do. What you do is pick up natural join can only happen if there is a common attribute. Pick up a tuple here, check the common attribute. Pick up another tuple here, check the common attribute. If the common attribute value matches, you join them. Put it here. And have all the attributes in the final table with removing the duplicates. There is an extension to natural join, outer joins. Okay, denoted by this symbol. This is the left outer join. This is the right outer join, and this is the full outer join. What you do in outer join is the following. So let me again take to R1 R2. So the thing is that the result will contain all the 3 attributes. Normal natural joins will be there, so this will be there. But for others, for example, this does not join with this. So what I do, no, sorry, this does not, this joins with 1, this does not join with anybody. So I still keep this, still keep 300, and for the remaining value I just keep a null. Note that there is a special value that any attribute type can take. It's called a null. It's basically a null value, not a 0 but a null value, meaning no value is available. So basically it is kind of missing value. I don't know what it is. This is the thing. So this will be the right outer join. Similarly, if it is the left outer join, what I would do is the common attributes anyway will be there, the common tuples, and this 400 which has not joined with anybody, I'll keep it and put a null here. Okay, and the full outer join will contain both this. It will contain this as well as this. Okay, this is the definition of outer join. So, consider there are many other derived operators. One more operator which is called the extended relational algebra operator. It is not part of relational algebra, but an extended operator called the aggregate operators. Typical example is the group by operator. It takes this general form. So this is the general form. G is a operator, R is a tuple or a table or a not tuple, a table or a relation, A is one or more attribute. Okay. So what it would mean is that depending you look at values of A and B, or let's take only one, let's take only A. Let me take an example rather. Suppose I have a student table which contains say student role, name, department, and maybe the marks after the grade point, the total marks, let's say, and I have various entries for this, Example of this group by operator would be say sum, average, max, min. So for example, if I want to find out the minimum marks among all students in computer science department, so what I do in all departments, let's say, so I will write min students min students. Okay, so there will be one more, there can be another group by operator. So there will be mean of the marks of students. It will come in a different form when we write down the actual queries. I am just writing out averaged over the grouped by the department. So what it will do? It will take all students of a particular department, each and every department, take their marks and find the minimum of the marks. So take all the CS students, find their minimum mark, take all the electrical students, find the minimum of their mark, and it will return a table which will contain like this, the minimum marks and the department. So minimum marks of CS, minimum marks of electrical, like this. It will return a 2 by whatever number of rows table. So this is the extended relational algebra operator. All other relational algebra operators can be expressed in terms of the fundamental operators. Whereas these extended operators, they cannot be expressed in terms of the fundamental operators. Okay. So now what we can do is that given there are other derived operators also. Given these operators, I can actually uh, write down relational expressions. Okay. So suppose I have two tables R1 R2, two relations R1 R2. I can form an expression like this: sigma A greater than 100 R1 and natural join sigma B greater than 1000 R2, the whole thing projected to B. Okay. So I can write, so this is an example of an expression. Note that after you evaluate the expressions, you also get another relation or a table. Every expression should evaluate to another relation. Okay. It may be a 1 by 1 relation, it may be a 1 by 2 relation, whatever, but it is treated as a relation. Okay. The good thing about these relations is that you can write down queries using these expressions. For example, I have say two tables, say a student table containing role, name, department, marks, I have a course table containing course ID, say department, course name. I have a credit or taken table telling which student has taken, which student roll number has taken which course ID. Suppose I have such table and there are values in this table, say 100, ABC, CS 90, course ID is say 101, CS, course name C, and roll number is say 100, has taken course ID 101. So I have values. So what I can do is that I can write down expressions to get answers to my queries. For example, from this set of tables, I want to find out, give me the name of all computer science students, CS students who have taken the course ID, who have taken the course ID 101. All students who have taken the course ID 101. So how would I answer this thing? What I'll do is that from this taken table, I'll pick up, I'll first pick up all the rows where course ID equal to 101 from the taken table. Taken means which student has taken what course. I'll pick up. So this row will be returned. So the result of this will be the small table containing role and course ID as attributes, and only the rows where course ID is 101. Basically, it will return me roll number of all the students who have taken the 101 course. Now I have to find the all the department, all the CS department students who have taken this. So what I do, this quantity, now I take a natural join with all the student table. I take a natural join with the student table. I am writing in short. I take a natural join with the student table. So what we will do? This will match the student table. It will see these roll numbers who have taken the 101 course. Corresponding rows will be picked out from here. So it will pick out all the roll numbers who have taken 101, those rows it will pick up. Okay, so this will contain this, but this will give me students who have taken 101 from any department. I want to further find out only the students whose department equal to CS, only those rows among this natural join. Okay, only those rows among this natural join. So basically the output of this will be all the students who have taken 101 and whose department is CS. And if I want only the name of the students, I will further project this into only the name. So let me properly write it down. So the final answer will be name sigma department equals CS, sigma course ID equals 101 on the taken table and natural join with the student table. So this is my expression which will answer the query. One thing to be noted is that this expression is not unique. You could have written down it in another way also. For example, I could have initially found out all the students, all the CS students. So I could have initially done CS from the student table. I could have picked them up all the CS students. I could have joined it with the taken table, find out all the courses taken by the CS students, and among them find out the ones taking the 101 course. That I could have done. Okay, and finally project it to them. So there are several ways of writing an expression for a query. The rule is that usually we take the expression which is easiest to evaluate. That means, if for example, easiest to evaluate in the sense that you have to operate on least number of tuples. For example, if only few students have taken the 101 course, if I do this, initially I will only get few rows. Okay, so I need to check only them. Okay, so there is a, when we actually write these queries in a database system, there is something called a query optimizer. What the query optimizer does is that among all possible expressions, it find out the best expression, the smallest expression, and evaluates that, since result will be the same. So what I'd like to do is to give you an exercise. For example, the student course taken, I would like to write an expression which will find out all the students who have taken any CS course, all the students who have taken any course offered by CS department. You write down an expression for that. Names of all the students who have taken any CS course. CS course means a course offered by the CS department. And I would rather ask you to write not one but 2-3 expressions which gives this result, and see which one is the easiest to evaluate. Okay. So with this background, let me move on to, so this is just a mathematical concept. Let me move on to an implementation of this concept of relational algebra in a language which is supported by most of the database, called the structured query language, or SQL. Okay. All the databases like Oracle, MySQL, DB4, IBM DB4, okay, would Sybase, would implement this SQL. This is just like a programming language. In fact, since all of you are very enthusiastic students, what I would ask you that in your laptop you download and install any of this software. This MySQL is free. There is another open source free PostgreSQL, which you can install for free in your laptop, either in a Windows machine or in a Linux machine. And I would ask you to actually run these queries and see. Okay. So let me go into. If you have any question, I can take some. If you have any question on the relational algebra part, please ask. I'll just look at your chat comments. If any of you have any question, I can answer this. Please mention in the chat. I'll give you a 2-minute time. Please write it there. Any question regarding relational algebra? I have not covered some of the topics also. If you are interested in some more topics in relational algebra and if you have a query, you ask. So let me proceed with this SQL or SQL. The first command that you need in SQL is creating a table. Okay. So the command for that is table name, say I call it student, and the setup attributes. This is just like structure definition in C. Okay, see the exact syntax of the SQL varies slightly from system to system, Oracle to MySQL from to Postgres, for some of the commands, not all of the commands. So what I suggest you is that you whatever system you are using is please look up the okay, please look up the manual for that system and then find out what exactly the syntax is. So the create table is like this: create table, name of the table, then list of the attribute, followed by their types, their domains. Okay, so role is an integer, name is a variable length character string, department is a variable length character string. I could have instead of I could have put some command restriction also. Say department only a 3 character strings, marks integers. There are other domain types also. You can also put constants. For example, if I write unique, that means roll number for every row has to be unique. Okay, so this creates a student table. Okay, I have a question. I have two questions. One is what is self join, and the second one is an example of the aggregate function. Let me come back to the self join first. Right, I'll explain with the previous example. So this was my natural join. So I can also write R1 with respect to R1. Okay, a self join. So what it will find out, and I can put a condition, let's say theta, a generalized join called a theta. It will find out pairs of tuples, which satisfy theta. So maybe I can do like mm, all the, for example, in the student table, let me take the student table. Okay, so you have role, name, department. I want to find out all the students belonging to same department. All the students belonging to same department. Okay. So what I do is that I'll check pair of tuples which have same value of department. So I can, in the self join, I can have 4 things: role, name, role name again. I'm writing small. I don't think you can read, but you can hear me, I guess. So role name, and all the pairs which have same value of the department, if this theta is department equal to same. So basically, or for example, take a bank account uh, table. I have the account details of all the banks, and suppose a person has 2 accounts in the same bank. So the self join, what it will return? It will return all the accounts, or all a person names, and against it all the accounts that the person holds. Okay, that is a self join. The second is how to use the aggregate function. How to use the aggregate function. So again, it is very easy. So for example, I have an I can use, right, say aggregate of the attribute A or the table R1 grouped by B. So it will pick up all rows which have same value of B. So 200, suppose if I had another row, say 100, 200, it will pick up this 200, 200, and suppose the aggregate function is sum A, B, R1. What it will do? B, it will have 2 things, 200 and 300. It will find the sum of all of the values of A of all the 200 B's. So this plus this, so 100 plus 100, 200. All the 300 B's, which is only one, which is 100. So this will be the result. Okay. So what you do, first group by B, take all the tuples having same value of B. So make them into groups of rows. And for each group of row, we find the sum of values of the attribute A. Put that. How do you put that? Sum first, then the B value, distinct values of B. Then this table is the output of this extended operator. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so this is creating a table. So first thing you do is to create a table. In fact, before that you have to do one more thing. I think I mentioned in the previous class is that a collection of tables is called a database. A schema, say a student table, a taken table, a teacher table, a course table, all these together forms a database, a system. The moment you log in into any of this MySQL or PostgreSQL, you have to first create a database of your own. Okay. So first create a database, give some name, your name or something. And then once you, that is your active database, within that if you create a table, it will be created in that database. The second thing is insert. Some value, let me write down, say roll number is 100, name is ABC, department is CS, marks is 10, what this command will do? This tuple, note that you have to have proper symbols. Okay. So these values, this is one tuple, it will insert into the student table. It will insert into the student table. So it will populate the student table. I am not going into the details, but you can have other commands like delete, which you should read up. Okay, delete, modify comments are there where you can modify some of the attributes. Okay, select. So select all the entries which have roll number equal to 100, then modify the name attribute, that you can do. So these are the comments. This part of SQL is called a data modification language, data manipulation language. It manipulates the data, it inserts data, creates data, data manipulation language. DML. And then the second part of SQL is data query language, DQL, where once a table is populated or something, you can use SQL to get some answers from the table. So basically, you can write relational algebra expressions, which I have showed before, to get answers from the table in terms of the SQL queries. So let me write again. So the basic structure of a SQL query is like this. Select some attribute name A from a table R. So only 3 lines where say B greater than 1000. So what it will do? If I have a table R like this, which contains, let's say, 100, 200, 300, 100, 2000, 400. What it will do? Take the table R, pick up all the rows where B is greater than 1000, in this case only this row, and project it to A. So this is equivalent to the relational algebra operator Okay. The point you should be careful about is the select here is actually the project operator in relational algebra. The select operator in selection operator in relational algebra is actually the where clause. So this maps here, the where clause maps here, and the from clause maps here. Okay. So this is the rule. This is the rule. I have another question. I'll maybe answer after thing. What is the difference between a schema and a instance? So as I have told you in the last class, a schema is a template. It is only the definition of the tables. What are the attributes the table contain? What are the set of tables? Whereas instance is the value of the rows that the different tables have. So the instance will change from time to time, whereas the schema is designed in the beginning before you use the database. It may be revised, but it is defined in the beginning. Okay, so let me come back to this definition. So this is the basic SQL query. Remember it carefully, it is very simple. Remember it carefully. Select the attribute from R, the table, where B greater than 1000, the clause, the selection clause. So this is equivalent to this relational algebra expression, where goes to sigma, select goes to pi, from goes to R. You can have slightly more generalized form. Okay. So this is equivalent to the query project not to A but to A and B, select not one condition but AND of two conditions from not one table but the Cartesian. So all these would appear as a Cartesian product. If you add more, it's the Cartesian product. Okay. So this is equivalent to this. Select this condition from this Cartesian product of all these three. In fact, the where is optional, you can have just this. So it will select basically all the tuples of R1, R2, R3 without any condition and project it to AB. Similarly, you can have so it will pick up all tuples of R1 cross R2 for which A is greater than 1000, and this star in select means it will not project, it will keep intact all the attributes of R1 cross R2, it will not project. So let me quickly ask you to write down the SQL query for the join operator. So one of the common pattern of question that you would face in your exam is to convert a relational algebra expression into a corresponding SQL query. So array relational algebra expressions, if I have say the natural join, suppose R1 has two attributes, I write it like this, the schema, and R2 has again two attributes, I write it like this, the schema of R2. So these two are the schema. I ask you that can you write down the SQL form of this relational algebra operator. Let me write down, it will be like this. So in the natural join there will be three things A, B, C. Note that one thing, sometime you can have a two level nomenclature. So this B of R1 you can write it down as R1 dot B. B of R2 you can write it down the R2 dot B. It is possible that two tables, two relations share a same variable name. How you distinguish this? Writing down the table name dot the attribute name, that will distinguish between them. So in this case, without actually this means R1 dot A, this means R1 dot B or R2 dot B, any one of them. This means R2 dot C. In this context, I am just writing it like this. Please think what will be the where condition for the natural join. So from the Cartesian product, all possible combination of tuples, what are the tuples I should pick up? Very simple. The condition is R1 dot B should be equal to R2 dot B. Sorry, dot here, R2 dot B. Okay, R1 dot B should match R2 dot B. Okay, which is the join condition, the condition of the natural join. So let me write down. So this is relational algebra expression. This is the SQ. Let me write down one more. Say the earlier thing that the student example. Wait a minute. So we have student course taken. And I want to find the name of all the students of the CS department who has taken course ID 101. So let me write down the query. The query is name of all students who have taken the 101 course ID and is from CS department. And if I write down the tables, they are like this. Okay, so the relational algebra expression is what? I can actually write it down like this also. So I write down student cross taken, all possible student versus taken. From that, pick up the queries where course ID equals 101 and student department equal to CS, and project this entire thing into name. So please think on that one. I take student cross taken, basic relational algebra, not using join. All the students versus all the courses taken, and out of that pick up the rows where course ID matches 101, basically the students who have taken the 101 course, and the students department, student dot department equal to CS. The department of the student matches CS. Pick up only those rows, project it into name. So the SQL query for this would be CS. Okay. So this is the SQL query. So I think what you should practice next is that given a set of tables and given some queries, you should be able to write down the relational algebra expression as well as the SQL query, corresponding SQL query. Okay. So what I'll do now is to take a 5-minute break. Take a 5-minute break. You just think on it. You practice the exercise that I have given you. Give me the name of all the CS students. Give me the name of all the students who have taken any course offered by CS department. Who has taken any course offered by the CS department. Okay. Just think on this a little bit, and you please practice it. Please try it on your own. If there are any doubts, I'll come back in 5 minutes. I'll take a quick break for 5 minutes, come back, and I'll solve it myself, or if you have any queries, I'll answer it. Also now if you have any query you can ask it. I have one more query. What is the difference between SQL and VQI? Hmm, this I really don't know. So what is VQI? What is the full form of VQI? Virtual Query Interface. So SQL is a language, structured query language. If SETA, ACID, CSE, if you can tell me the full form of VQI, maybe I can answer your question. Hmm. How to use alias name of an attribute in a query. Okay, I'll explain that. And well, you want me to explain the join operation once more? Okay, I'll surely do that. Okay, so what I suggest is that I think more questions will come. I'll take a 5-minute break. You just practice this. Name of all students who have taken any CS course from this table. Please do that. And in the meanwhile, you write down your queries. I'll come back and answer them. And then we'll move into some more advanced SQL topics and then finally into functional dependencies. Okay, now I'll take a 5-minute break. Welcome back again. So we have seen the basics of SQL and we have seen how can we write SQL queries corresponding to relational algebra. So what I'll do is that there are some more advanced SQL queries. For example, you can have nested queries. So of this form. Where the output depends on the result of two queries. So I let me take an example. Okay, so what it says is that so I in a normal SQL query, what I'll write, select A from R1 cross R2 where B value of B greater than 1000 or something or some static clause. Instead, what I can do is that I can write a more complex clause. I find out, first run a query called the inner query, which says that pick up the B values from R2 where the C value is greater than 1000. Pick up those, pick up only those B's. And if any of these B matches with one B of R1 in a row of R1 cross R2, pick up that row and do this. Okay, so in this way there are other forms also. You can have exist, not in, greater than any, R1B greater than any of these B, and exist, not in. You can have several forms. There are what I am actually doing is that in my slides the actual use and definition of all these are given. I think you will be able to understand them from this basic description once you go through them. Maybe only for the sort of time I am not going through them. If you still feel that I should explain them, you can please ask me a question. I'll explain them in detail. Meanwhile, there are two questions I'll answer. One is, what is the relational difference between tuple relational calculus and domain relational calculus? Of course, I'll explain it. And you explain the self join and the rename operator. Okay, let me explain it with SQL only. From I can do like this, R1 and R1 as R2. So there is only one table R1, but what I have done, I have renamed R1 as R2. Where R1 dot B, suppose B is an attribute, so R1 is this, let's say, equals R2 dot B. If I write down R1, this is my R1, A and B, give me some values. More values maybe. Okay, this is my R1. There are two attributes A and B and 3 rows, 100, 200, 200, 300, 300, 200. So what happens when I rename R1 as R2? R2 also becomes the same. Okay, now try to make the Cartesian product of these two, try R1 and R2, which is R1 comma R1 as R2. So what does the Cartesian product look like? Let me write it down again. Now there will be 4 columns. What are the columns? Column will be R1 dot A, R1 dot B, R1 dot B, R2 dot A, R2 dot B, and what are all possible values? 3 into 3, 9 values will be there. Of course, I'm not writing out all of them, but the values will be like this: 100, 200, this with each of these. So 100, 200, 100, 200, 200, 300, 100, 200, 300, 200, and so on. So each of these tuple will cross with every of this. So this with this, this with this, this with this, similarly this with this, this with this, this with this, this with this. So 9 tuples will be there in R1 cross R2. Now we have the condition that R1 dot B equal to R2 dot B. Note that R1 has been just been renamed as R2. So R1 dot B is this, is equal to R2 dot B. So can you tell me which are the tuples in the cross product where R1 dot B will be equal to R2 dot B? So this 300 is joining with this, it is the same copy, sorry, this 200 is joining with this 200. So this with itself, this will be 1. And this, when it joins with this, it need not be same because the B value does not match. Here again the B value matches. Here again the B value matches. So when this joins with this, the B value will be same. Okay. So there are some tuples from here where this B value is matching. Note that there is a theta condition. I can put additional condition like this, where and R1 dot A, in this case all the attributes match. So this also matches with this. Okay, they are matching. So this will match with this. So that also I can take. So if I pick up all these tuples and project them onto A, this will be an example of the self join. So what you do in self join is nothing. You just rename it, define the join condition as a where clause, just match the tuples in the cross product which agrees with the join condition. Pick up those tuples and finally project it if you want. That will give the self join. All right. So let me proceed onward. So I can define more complex SQL queries to answer this. And I would urge that you practice a little bit of this nested queries, where you can nest one query inside the other. You can have nested queries here also. So instead of from R1 R2, I can have a complex query here. Select, I can create a table here. Instead of R2, I can say select A, B from R2 where some theta, this entire thing as R3. I can do it. I can nest here also. So this you please practice. I'll mention about some more aspects of the SQL. One is a view. So what you do in a view is that you can create view. Let me call it as V using something. Say you can create view using select a full SQL query. Select A from, again exact syntax you look. I am not sticking to the exact syntax of whatever Oracle or whatever system you are using. So you can create your own view. The purpose of this view is that you don't allow some of the users. So say you are using a railway reservation system, you don't allow a normal user to see all the tables in the in the database. What you can instead do is that you give access to only few relevant parts of the table which is relevant to that user. So you can, for example, in a railway reservation system, all the stations, all the trains I don't need. Only the reservations that one can make, I form them a view, and that view I give to a user to query. Okay. So you can create such views. You can update such views when updates happen. And there is one more thing which is called a trigger. Okay. This is related to something called a procedure. What is a trigger? Uh, for example, I have two tables. One, for example, I have a account holder table, a bank account table, where the account details of every account holder, their account number, name, address, balance amount is given, and then there is a loan, whether a person has taken a loan, a person with account number has taken a loan. Now, suppose what we do is, you know that the minimum balance of many of these banks cannot go down below 5,000 rupees. And what one bank allows is that moment you withdraw money more than 5,000 rupees, the excess amount becomes a loan to you. So I can have a trigger which checks the account balance of a person. Moment it goes below 5,000, it inserts an additional row in the loan table whose amount is equivalent to the excess below 5,000. That amount against that account number. So some value on some update going below this can trigger and change in another table. And this will automatically happen. You need not explicitly fire a query, this will automatically happen. This is called a trigger. So there is one part of SQL besides data manipulation, data query, it's called programming language SQL, PLSQL. The normal SQL, DQL and DML are so-called descriptive languages. That means they don't give you procedure. Unlike a normal C program which tells you first do this, then do this loop, then if do this. SQL does not give you a procedure. It gives you a description. This is what I want. How you get it? It's not defined. Yeah, somehow you get it. It just gives a description. Give me names of all students who are doing CS course. This PLSQL has some procedural extensions like loops, like ifs, which can be added. and which can be used to define this kind. When this goes below this, then do this. You can add such thing. So I would this is what happens in a PLSQL. So one exercise I would request all the students to do is that you should build a complete stack. If I had a lab session, all our students at IIT will do this exercise. If I had a lab session, I would be extremely pleased for you to do. The thing is like this, you have your tables. Okay. But it is difficult to directly query the table and all this time, just like a Indian Railway. You have instead to the common user who is not a computer scientist, you give a HTML form, a web page, which contain some places where you can fill up the stations to where you go, some form. And there is something called a connectivity server, like JDBC, Java database connectivity, or C++ Open Database Connectivity, ODBC. These connectivity servers take some scripting language like PHP or JavaScript, which reads this HTML page, sends information through this connectivity server, and fires SQL query to these tables. And the answer also to this connectivity server, it again through the script generates HTML and source. So a typical Apache HTML, PHP, MySQL, these three are used. You should make it an exercise that you, I'll put up the manuals in the course also. You set up a SQL server, set up a PHP, set up a JDBC or DBC, and build a system. Maybe just the student information system, somebody, a teacher or somebody wants to find out the name of all the students who are doing a course. Just this simple thing you can build up. And there you can give triggers like whenever a new student has joined a course, the course should be updated automatically through a trigger. Please, it is quite fun. It looks good when you build such a system, and you will understand it clearly. Unfortunately, I cannot hands-on explain it, but please try it. If you have any query, you are always free to mail me. I'll give you exact tutorials, video tutorials, how to do this. One question is, how are exceptions handled? So this is an what is an exception? Exception is when you have a constant, a condition that the table should always hold. For example, a constant can be bank account balance cannot go below 5,000, and there is an exception to this. It goes below 5,000. What you do, you can write such procedures or trigger depending on your business logic. For example, the business logic here is as a loan to handle such. So as a programmer, you have to understand the business logic and write. So I think I'll just stop on this topic here. I need to move on to the next topic. So the final word is, you please try this. Build a full system. There is no point in just writing exotic queries. You build a system, see what comes. If you have any query, you ask me. I'll be happy to help offline also beyond this lecture. Now I move on to the next topic. Let me first write down the tables. Okay, so there are 3 tables. What I can find in this table is that, see, first of all I can have some constant. One constant is maybe that the roll numbers has to follow certain format. The department can be only CS or E or mechanical, only a finite set. The course ID can follow some format. Hmm. Or the roll number is a prime. In addition, I can have a constant, like I can say that if roll number of 2 student is same, their name also has to be same. Okay, so suppose I have 2 students with same roll number, their name cannot be different, and similarly their department cannot be also be different. That means I write it down as that roll number determines name. This is an example of what is called a functional dependency. What it means, if you have 2 tuples, and if alpha and beta are 2 attributes, okay, which means if you take 2 tuples T1, T2, if the left hand attribute matches, right hand attribute has to match. Okay, in that case I'll say alpha determines beta, or alpha to beta is a functional dependency. Let me see. No, please think, what are the functional dependencies here? Role to name is a dependency. Role to department is a dependency. Course ID to course name is a dependency. But there are no dependencies in this table. One, 2 student with same roll number can take different course. Some of the dependencies, we call them as if beta is a subset of alpha, this is a trivial. Of course, it is obvious. I have. Let me go to the slides. This is a trivial dependency. The thing is that given a set of functional dependency F, suppose I have, note that alpha beta are all the attributes of some table R. We say that this set of dependencies F, these rules, hold on R if this is A to B, if F is this set of attributes A to B, A to C, CG to H, CG to I. So these are some attributes. I can form a closure of F, I call F plus, by applying the Armstrong axioms, these 3 Armstrong axioms. For example, I can get A determine H by the transitivity. I can get AG determined I by augmentation of 2 rules. I can get CG determine HI by augmenting CG and I in infinite. So repeatedly I can apply the Armstrong axiom and get my closure. Okay, so this is the procedure. You repeatedly apply the rules and get the. Now the problem, the thing is that what do we do with all this closure? How do I use this? Functional dependencies can be used to find out what is a good schema design or what is a bad, and the good schema designs would call them as normal forms of schema, normal forms of the table. I'll probably explain you with an example. So suppose I have this information, the student versus course and all this, and I have made 3 tables for them, one for student, one for course, one for table. Instead I could have made one table I call as one big table, let's say. And there what I have is that I have all the information. So I have role, I have name, I have department, I have course ID, I have course name, I have course department, and so on. I have all these things, and I have in this rows maybe the marks also. And in the rows I have all the students, all the students have taken any course. So another course, another student, mm, okay, all the information, everything I have. And now I have the functional dependency that say course ID determines course name. If the course ID is same, course name has to be there. So here it is valid, course ID determines course name, and I have say another person taking the C++ course. 03 DF department ME has also taken the C++ course offered by CS department and got 9. So here it is, if this dependency hold, we have same value of course ID, course name is. Now suppose the name of the C++ course updates to object oriented system. Objects to object oriented. So what I do, I have to change all the attributes that all the rows that have these values of attributes C++. So I have to change here, I have to change here, and if I miss somewhere and I don't change C++ to object oriented system, there's inconsistency with respect to this. So there are several places I have to carefully update, but here you see in this smaller set of tables, just if the course name changes from C++ to object oriented, just one row I have to change. Everywhere it will automatically be consistent. So with respect to maintaining consistency, this is a better design than that. By the way, the earlier thing that the larger table that I mentioned can actually be reconstructed from this table. If you take the join of these three table, if you take the Cartesian product of these three table, you will get back that. If you take the join, actually you will get. So you can sort of have both designs for purpose of query, but from the point of view of consistency, this table is better. So how do we suppose instead of that we have mistakenly made this big table, and now we want to convert it to this small table. In other words, we want to normalize this. Normalize this. So one of the most popular normal form, the simplest normal form is called a first normal form, where every attribute is atomic. That means they are not composite. Say mm, they do not have two parts. They are atomic. If all such attributes are there, I call that table as first normal form. Slightly more complicated normal form is what is known as they won the Turing Award, the highest award in computer science for proposing this form. So if you have a table R and if you have one functional dependency alpha to beta, you have not one but all functional dependencies. You first compute the closure using Armstrong axiom F plus, and for every rule in A plus, one of these two should hold. Either it is a trivial dependency or the left hand side is a super key. By the way, if left hand side is a super key, then alpha will actually determine all the attributes, because alpha is distinct. If a super key, it is distinct for all tuples. So it will naturally determine the rest of the attributes of R. R is of this form. R, capital R are the attributes of small r. Then R is said to be in BCNF with respect to the set of rules F. Note that it is not enough to check only for the rules in F. You have to check for closure of F. In case there is one rule which in F plus which violates this two condition I mentioned before, super key or trivial, you split it into tables. This process is known as a decomposition or a normalization process. The tables are, one table has attributes only alpha union beta, only the attributes alpha and beta. Other table had the attributes R minus beta minus alpha. Okay, take the attributes of beta which are not in alpha, remove them from R, and take the attributes of alpha and beta. Let us see what happens here. So in this big table, the capital R is role, name, department, course ID, course name, course department, marks. And suppose I have a rule, course ID determines course name. So it would be split into two tables. One is course ID, course name, and the other is course ID minus course name is course ID. This removed. So sorry, course ID minus course name is course ID. Remove that. So role, name, department, course name, course department, marks, remaining table. You have another dependency, say role determines name. For that again normalize it further. So you have to go through several stages of normalization till for each and every rule it satisfies the BCNF condition. That will be the normal form. So if you take the rules in the previous table and go on decomposition, you will get those three tables which are in BCNF. Now there are two more conditions that this decomposition should satisfy. Suppose R gets decomposed into R1 and R2, not this. R gets decomposed into R1 and R2. Two conditions should be satisfied. That means you should be able to get back R by joining. Second is okay. What is dependency preservation? So if you have a set of rules F plus and R is split into a number of tables R1, R2, R3, restriction of F plus to R1 is only those rules which use only attributes of R1. Okay, so you have restriction of R2, restriction of, in fact, not just closure, you first consider this. First consider not the closure, just the plain set of rules. Then the F to this is this, F to this is this, F to this is this. Decomposition of R to this 3 is if the closure of the actual set is equal to the closure of the restrictions, combination of the restrictions. Take the restriction, put them together, take the closure, you'll get the same closure as the original set. Okay. In that case, I would call it as a dependency preserving decomposition. So I want these both properties. BCNF does not satisfy both. So I have a okay. So it is more relaxed. Everything that is in BCNF is also in 3NF. Okay. So if this satisfies, it is in 3NF. Okay. So I stop here today. If you have any question, you can ask. In the next class, we will go into details of multi-valued dependencies, MVD, and into tuple relational calculus, domain relational calculus, and then into the physical design. Any question you can please ask, or you can mail me also. My email is, I'll write down my email, is Pabitra, Pabitra, Pabitra @gmail.com. Because of the limited time I have, I cannot do justice to many of the topics. It is a full course here. So if you have any question, you please email me. I'll tell you. Otherwise, you can write in chat here also. Yes, the syntax I agree is slightly different in the thing. So what I suggest is that whichever database you are using, you consult it for the exact syntax. I am not teaching you the exact syntax. It will depend on the database. Any other questions? So next class I'll explain you multi-valued dependency and domain relational calculus, tuple relational calculus. Also, it will help before the next class if you can mail me of what are the additional topics you want to learn. I'll maybe give more focus on them. And of course, you should go to the textbook. This is not a fully content course. You should go through the textbook to, there are more details. You should solve exercises. I have given some assignment problems. You should go through them also. All right. If there are no more questions, I'll stop today. Thank you for your attention. Happy Durga Puja.
you.